So now we are gonna proceed with the discussion. So we have three discussants for this session. So we have Junkyu Park, and then we have Leah Rabinovitch, yes, and then we also have Gregory Lee Harrell, who was in the previous and is now in this one, yes. So what I will ask is just maybe give you first the opportunity to give any comments or questions you had on the presentations, and then maybe we will open the floor to everyone else if they have more questions. I think that would be nice. Would you like to start? Yes, your thoughts and questions, if you have any.
Oh, yeah. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Junkyu Park. Now I work in the KDI school, which is an abbreviation of Korea Development Institute School. And it is located in Sejong. Maybe you guys never heard about this city. And, well, actually, for me, it is my first time to participate this kind of conference. So it is very honor to me to participate this conference, and all of the presentation are really awesome. And yeah, so yeah, well. Do I have to ask something, or
if you want? Yeah. that's usually or not. If you don't have anything to add for the moment, maybe we can go to the next person. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so my name is Leah. It's also first time for me as a discussant.
Yes.
So I have a few questions. It was really interesting for me when you said that there is like a hierarchy between the fans, between the old ones and the young ones, and there is a separation between the states, different states, because of the language barrier and what you said. And it's interesting for me if also this separation is also like kind of hierarchy, because like you described the way that Koreans see themselves as, or at least see others in a way they're allowed, they're not supposed to be here, and in that sense. So I think it's like two-folded question. One, if there is hierarchy that is maybe kind of similar between the hierarchy of the states. And the second one is if it's hierarchy that based on stereotypes that there is about those states. Like let's say there is a better opinion about the US than about Japan, so that the US fans are better and they're perceived as more open because American perceived more open than Japanese, something like that. So this is one question that I have. And I also wanted to ask again about hierarchy. You explained how they became different kind of monster depend on their desires. So I think it's really interesting because you can know the desire, it's like you can really see it on the person. So if it also like create kind of hierarchy, because not all the monsters are the same, because in zombie movies they almost lose their identity as people and they have no hierarchy, they're like beast or something and not. So this question and continue? Or?
Yes. Okay. I think you can ask all your questions and then we will do the answers. Yeah.
Okay. I also want to know if it's, for me, it sounds a bit educational. Like if you want something, like in Christianity, that like if you desire something, it's kind of a bad thing to desire and you will punish. And the punishment will be pretty similar to the sin that you did. If you're like greedy, you're gonna, like that, go to hell and then starve or something. I don't really know, but this kind of stuff. And last question, you mentioned that they're not pronounce the names properly. So I can say the same in Israel, of course. And in a sense, what I hear, especially about Japanese, less about Korea, that when you not pronounce the name right, correctly, it's kind of also when politicians do it, when they address other people not by the correct name, like Trump called, they don't know, I cannot remember who, but not in the correct pronunciation. It's like kind of not respectful. And maybe it says something about the way Russia see itself or see itself in front of Korea. And the other question, I have a lot, I'm sorry.
That's
if
perfect.
there is like kind of organization of fans of Korean dramas that trying to change the situation. They try to like go together and change the mistakes. And that's all.
Okay, thank you for your question. So I think we're going to start with Maria, the answer, and then everyone will answer your question. Then we will go to the sort of discussion in that way. So yes.
Well, yeah, thank you for your question. I kind of thought about the same thing. That's why one of the questions in my different section, like the last one, to be honest, was kind of tricky and it was maybe kind of offensive. But I was asking them if they feel that there is any fandom who are closer to BTS than like fandom of their country. And obviously there was people who were going with like denial stage saying like, no, they love everyone the same. But there was also a lot of people who were like, well, I mean, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? And I was like, yes, but could you please say it? And they were like, well, of course, Koreans, because they speak the same language, they live in the same country, they have cultural background, blah, blah, blah. Also, obviously, US, there was like a lot of people who are not from US who are like, well, I don't know why, but they always do something from US specifically. Some were mentioning Japan also, because I don't think it's that relevant now, but at least 2 years ago, BTS had a separate like market strategy for like Japan. So there is division between like real hierarchy in a way that obviously, like I would still say that objective reasons behind the hierarchy is the language and like intention of the company. So it's basically Korea, US, sometimes Japan. And other stuff came from stereotypes because for every country I asked and every like region I will touch, they will feel that, I don't know, maybe their neighboring country is more like, I don't know, the Polish fan will say, okay, they're always coming to Germany and France, like this kind of stuff. And this is not that objective in a way that it's just they feel this way. The only objective reason behind the hierarchy, again, language, culture, or agency intention. This is how I would define these two, and I'm really glad for this question because it's, yeah, I feel that I need to touch this more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, and now maybe Jin can answer.
I'm really thankful for your question. So, when you ask about is there a hierarchy in Monster, yes, I do think there's a hierarchy in Monster, but depends on how you see it. So as I said in my presentation, there is a dad wants to save his kids, so that's why he his arms are longer and stuff. And there are also monsters. There is a mom who saved a kid in front of a huge monster, and there is also a sort of like a green glue kind of monster that's also save a kid and a female main character. So it's yes, there is a hierarchy in it when we are perceiving that from a human centered view. There is a hierarchy if they're doing good things. You know, they're doing good things, then they're good monsters. But if we're talking about just seeing them as monsters, is there really a hierarchy? They're just monsters that trying to attack everybody. So is there really a hierarchy in a sort of like subjective view, not really from a human-centered view, kind of? And also it's kind of about like how if you believe in coexistence or not. So yeah, and I don't. Is there a second question? I didn't really get your second question. So.
If there is like an educational purpose for like if you feel that they try to educate the audience to like something about if you want something bad. Like I haven't seen a movie, so maybe it's not a correct question, but if somebody have to desire to become very strong, so he's like better monster, not in the sense that he's a better person or monster, but in the sense that he's more powerful. And if people want bad things and get like punished for wanting bad things, so they become like I don't know, not the, like I don't know how to say, but I don't know, less powerful monster.
Yeah. There is definitely like stuff like that. Like what I said was since you didn't see it, there is a monster that is huge that looks like a hawk or something, like that is huge, and he was killed in the last episode, I think. But there is also like monster, as I said, protected a kid, and the main female character was simply killed by a gun. So whether there's a strong monster or a less stronger monster, I think I probably could answer it by that. And also, as I said, I think the educational purpose is more to think about the desire, and also as we are entering in an age of like technology and stuff like that. So when it's more about to invoke a discussion of whether you believe in coexistence between something that is not human. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I should agree that it's kind of offensive for Koreans when their names are pronounced incorrect, because I faced it personally when I studied at the university. And however, these people, most people don't learn Korean. They mostly consume the content, and they may don't know how to write names, pronounce names, because it's really a big problem how to improve the transliteration, because even some scholars, they don't believe that it's possible to resolve, just not only from the perspective of the transliteration system, because, for example, Korean language has two yo sounds, so to speak. Russian has only one yo sound, and the same with nyun and nyun. We only have one sound, and so some scholars they struggle how to show it. However, for me, it's maybe not the big issue. Maybe the biggest issue is that how to explain. This problem, I can kind of agree with one of the scholars. He's Lankov. He's the most respectable prominent scholar in Korean studies, and he said that it's impossible to develop and resolve just because this problem has so deep roots, and people just have in their minds how to pronounce their words. Because I just have an example. When Hyundai appeared on the Russian market, it was translated incorrect, and by most Russians it was pronounced as it was written, Hyundai. For Russians it was Hyundai. However, by the end of the 2010s, I noticed in some ads that the person who translated the ads, he pronounced the ads Hyundai, so it was correct. However, most people still continue to say Hyundai. I hear it. So I believe, for me, I believe it's maybe possible to resolve maybe partly because many people just watch K-dramas, and I just couldn't show it on my slides with Crash Landing on You, but indeed some people really started to write names together, and they really see it. So they maybe compare two dramas, which, for example, use different so-called traditions, because this unofficial tradition actually is not a tradition from academic perspective. It's just their own writing of the name. So, but they really can write. So as we can see in the Snowdrop case, in an example of writing idols' names and actors' names. So I think maybe. If at least fan subgroups start to implement this tradition, it may be resolved partly during time. So, but for me, it's really a very complicated question, because I was also kind of positive about this, but the deeper I went, the more I understood that it's really hard question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for all the questions. So maybe if you want to add any comment or ask more questions, I'm giving you the mic.
Okay, look out. No, I'm kidding. These are all terrific, sincerely. All right. So I'm interested in the logistics of, it fascinates me, the BTS Army and just delving into it, because it's something I just look at on the surface and I say, these are talented young men and they are marketed beautifully and I really enjoy their performances and I never really look beyond that because I'm old. So, but I just did a year's worth of research here, on studying Western and Korean contemporary vocal pedagogy, of how the singing requirements are and how they get the sound out of people. So in terms of research, I don't know, you all must, because you're in college, do you go through an ethics training for research on what are the proper ways of interviewing people? Yes, of course you do, because there are laws. And so what I wanted to know was, and maybe you said this and I didn't catch it, but how many interviewees do you hope to get? And how are you interviewing them? Are you doing them in person? Are these online? Are you doing through Zoom? And how many countries are you hoping to get? And how are you going about finding these people? Because that fascinates me as well. I'm sure you have many ways of getting it. And that's it. That's my questions for that. And then, Sweet Home. I loved it. Man, that show, you're like, TikTok, when's it going to happen? Come on, it's going to happen. I wonder what they're going to change into. The guy with the eyeball. Like, what did you do? What did you do to get that eyeball? But mine is just a question. With the webtoon, because I never really looked at the webtoon, and you're focused on the actual performance of the Netflix, it appears to be. How does it compare and contrast, and will it affect? Because I wonder if, I'm just curious, if the monsters that are in the Netflix, are they the same type of monsters that are in the comic? Oh, and then, and how deep are you going to tear into this? I'm also curious about. All right. And, so Pachinko, I did not read the book. I watched it on Apple TV because I'm busy. But it's absolutely fascinating. I'm wondering, with the Japanese colonization, 1910, 1989, how was this book and the series perhaps received in Japan? How was it, and did it affect the author in any way, or did the author have any opinions on it? That's my interest. I think you did a really beautiful job in your in-depth analysis. So, Russian, the IPA. So, being a voice teacher, I live with IPA all the time because I'm having to teach people to sing in different languages for classical songs. And knowing that Korean is not a phonetic language, and neither is French a phonetic language, neither is English a phonetic language. So I can certainly feel for you, and my Korean friends, even my instructors, hate saying my name, hate saying Goreg. They hate it. So now they call me Leah, my middle name, in the beginning of my last name, which I'm thinking of changing my name to. But what do you plan to do with this after your research? What do you want to accomplish with your analysis? And those are my questions. Around the table.
Yeah, thank you for your question. I think I partly mentioned what you asked.
Did you? And I just...
Yeah, maybe like my pronunciation was not the best. Like I chose the division of United Nations for regions because at first I had obviously like several choices. I could go with, okay, I will choose like this country and we'll study this country phenomenon. And we have a like really well-known professor in our department who is like really famous for the K-pop specific researches. And when I approached him and asked about this topic, he said like, I looked at him, was like, why? And he's like, I mean, you always study like countries, cases of K-pop, but to be honest, essentially it's the same. All real results are the same usually. And I was like, yeah, I kind of can agree with this. Like, usually when you study fandom in like, I don't know, like, because I read like Philippines case, or I don't know, Indonesia, I don't know, like Russia, China, for like there is obviously some exceptions, but usually the mechanisms are the same. And I was like, okay, so why we still feel that we need to study them differently? That's how it was born. That's why I decided not to stack with one like country or region, but then it was the next step, how I can make it like objective, not in a way that I will just randomly choose people from random countries and make them answer the same question and say that this is legit. That's why I decided to choose like at least some official division of something to make it more, like at least for myself, for my perfectionism, to make it look more legit. And for now, I interviewed 22 people. Yes. And I'm still planning to interview like 2 people from 2 countries from every region. Because I don't want to have only one country from the region, because it also can be biased in a way that I don't want only Germany to represent whole Europe, because I don't know, maybe people in Italy will feel different, and I want them to also show their their case. I think I answered, or I didn't.
Well, how are you finding?
Okay. To be honest, I should kind of confess. I have a small Instagram blog, and I was like, and it's related to K-pop. Like people who follow me, they're like K-pop fans, and I was like posting, like, okay, I need people from this country. If you know someone, or if you are the fan yourself, please contact me. And there was a lot of people who really contact me back, like, or they reposted to their like social medias and like their community. But then there was like a second step. I was asking them, okay, are you a fan? Yes, I do. And then I was like, okay, are you aware of what's going on in your country? Because there was a lot of people, yes, I don't know, I'm from Israel. Like there was like 10 people from Israel who approached me. And I was like, but are you aware of like what's going on in Israel community? And there was like, oh, I'm a fan, but I'm not sure what's going on there. And I was like, okay, thank you for approaching me. I need someone who is aware of what's going on. This was my, I'm not sure if it's that good like strata method, but this is one I was able to contact a lot of people through it. That's how.
So I guess so. I remember this, but what is the number you're looking for? Area?
Okay, I need to calculate that, but there's like these regions here. I want to have 2 countries, like I don't know, North America, like Canada and US, the easiest one. Canada and US, North America, that's it. So I want to have 2 countries, US and Canada, and 2 people from each country. For at least for now, because the amount of data, if I will like follow with this division, I will have like close to 50 or even 60 in-depth interviews. So I would like to at least reach this amount for now to make it at least kind of objective. Yeah, hopefully. Okay.
The question was, how do you conduct the interview?
I also said it like there were some people who are in Korea currently. They're either students or language trainers or I don't know, tourists. So I met them in person. Or if the people were outside, like for now, I think it was like 50% in Korea, 50% like outside Korea. So either in person or in Zoom. So obviously I recorded everything with my phone, and obviously I asked about like consent, if they understand, if I can use what like all the procedure I explained with like all the regulations. But yeah, I was just like, maybe you will blame me for not doing something. Yeah, I did, I hope.
Thank you for the question. Actually, I didn't study yet about the reception in Japan, but I think it will be an interesting topic to study. Well, considering the relation between Korea and Japan, I think that would be a bit not so positive view, right? Just a guess, not so positive. reception, but it would be interesting to check. But yeah, I have some barriers because if I do this research, I need, be proficient in Japanese, right, to access. But I think it would be interesting or find some ways for tracing, right, that data for this reception. Actually, I would say that considering the mapping, the tracing, translations, because I already studied for my doctorate thesis, the Pakwon-So writer. I did the mapping for all translations, and in Japanese, there's few titles translated for Japanese. So Pakwon-So writer, there's few titles translated into Japanese, considering to French or Germany or English, and we have major translations into English and French, for example, for Pakwon-So and Oh Jung-hee that I cited in my presentation. Oh Jung-hee, she had many titles translated into German, and in English as well. Yeah, depends on but in the case of Japanese language, we cannot find many titles translated into Japanese. Sadly, maybe in the future can change, but I think it's a good idea, right? A good suggestion for tracing this reception. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. May I be straightforward, maybe kind of? I just hope that maybe it will make the Russian scholars to pay attention more to Hallyu content, because I just know a little bit more about it, what is going on. They actually ignore everything which is connected to Hallyu, everything which concerns them, at least in my university, and the scholars which they keep in touch with, they only care about academic works, which is a niche content again, and it's not so popular. Also, I noticed, actually I can't check it because I'm not in Russia, I noticed on some local OTT platforms that they publish some Korean dramas, and the names are written, I just can't explain what is it. It's mostly a name abuse for me, because one name can be written in one way, another name can be written another way. So I think it's time to maybe implement some kind of system for the content, because the same Chinese and Japanese languages, they have this system. At least, as far as I know, that for Japanese it's also not ideal, because I just talked to some Japanese studies students, and the academic tradition is also a little bit different in some sounds, but still it is closer than Korean ones. So maybe it's time for changes or something like this, because more and more people are get to know about Korea and start to learn Korean, so it really creates a lot of inconsistency and differences, especially with the current times, political times, because I noticed that some groups on Instagram which are aimed at education in foreign countries, they switched from promoting education in European countries to Korea and other Asian countries as well. So I think it maybe also provoke more and more people to know about Korea, because some people want to study abroad, but they can't. At the moment, it's quite problematic to study at Europe, because there are some certain different difficulties with visa. It also depends on the country. So maybe it's time for changes. So that's what I hope to accomplish.
Yeah, I think Jing, you answered more or less, but do you want to add something to your answer? Sorry, wait.
Okay. So how deep I'm going into this? So I think there are already so many zombie movies that already, depict humanity and really focus on humanity. But I do not think Sweet Home focused on humanity necessarily. I think it focused more on coexistence. But so that makes me really think, should I do it? Like, should I really dig deep into coexistence theme? I'm still thinking about it, but yeah, and still I'm applying to the post-human concept to it. So I think it's something like that. And then also speaking of post-human, post-human state beyond human, and in today's age, I think it's really important for us to really talk about it. And I think Sweet Home is really an instrument to sort of start this conversation. And yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Can you pass the mic behind you? Yeah, you can.
Thank you. My question is addressed to Ms. Dimitrieva. Yeah. So my name is Hang-Sub Choi. I work as a professor in Department of Sociology in Kookmin University, Korea, and I teach sociology of Hallyu, and I came with some of my students here. And I know that, and you know that there are a huge community of BTS in the world. But one of French sociologists, his name is Michel Maffesoli. He used the term nomadic tribe to describe the fan community in our times. It means that they are very loyal to one star, but just for a limited time. It means that they are always ready to move to a new star when the chance is given. So according to him, there will be no more fan club loyal to a star like Beatles. So, and then you know that this week, Jin, one of the members of BTS, he said that he would serve for Korean Army this year. It means that there will be 2 or 3 years of BTS absence now. So do you think that in 2 or 3 years, the Army Club will be still loyal to BTS, or they are ready to change another, pop star? Yeah, that's my question.
I mean, thank you for your question. I know which scholar you are citing, and I agree with this because I agree to some extent in a way that if you are coming in close contact with K-pop fans, you will notice that, I don't know, after 3, 5, or maybe 6 years, they're starting this conversation with they're not the same. Do you think that it was better before? Because the older group gets any K-pop Shiny, Super Junior, I don't know, Big Bang, EXO, they're not that intense in terms of content production, in terms of promotion, whatever. EXO, 5 years ago was the biggest band, and now, also ARMY plays an important role, of course. But people who follow K-pop, who are the fans of K-pop, they are kind of addicted to this consumption, unstoppable, really extra consumption. And when they're feeling that they don't have this a lot of information around them anymore, they are trying to find an explanation why they are feeling this way. Because of the K-pop culture, they are feeling that they are fans. They need to love the BTS or EXO or anyone, but why they don't feel the same. So to not think the way that they will cheat on them, they will move forward, they're trying to find an explanation in the behavior of the artist, saying that they're not the same, they change their music style, their performances, do you remember this era? And it's basically what you said, people, fans, they feel that they obligate to love them. And when they don't feel the same, they're trying to move forward and find something new. And they're doing it. That's why a lot of scholars recently, they're citing that, to be honest now, to divide K-pop fandom by fans BTS fans, Stray Kids fans, NCT fans, it's kind of redundant. Because majority of the fans, you will see, Stray Kids fans or NCT fans, they were fans of, BTS, Big Bang, EXO. They are just moving to another fandoms, but they are still parts of the previous one. So I agree that it's kinda academically redundant saying study on BTS, ARMY, because majority of the questions I asked, responses was in K-pop, like K-pop fans, like in our K-pop fandom, even though I was asking like BTS community, BTS, but essentially it's basically K-pop community. Of course, in Korea, it makes a lot of sense because fans, I don't know, of NCT and Stray Kids, like they will even leave the award show to not support like someone who is not their favorite group. They will even leave to not give the support. But abroad, for like any other region, it's basically, as you said, like K-pop fans mostly, as I see. And ARMY, I think obviously it will influence. Like Big Bang, do you remember how massive they were and how everyone was saying like, oh my God, like G-Dragon. And now can you hear anyone speaking about Big Bang? It's not that I'm saying that BTS will lose their fans. Of course, they have such a huge fan base that it's impossible to lose all of them. But K-pop are really addicted, like K-pop fans are addicted to this intensive content. And for 3 years, there will be none. So obviously, I'm expecting it to be less than it's now. Thank you, I'm sorry.
Are there any other questions? Anyone who wants to add? Oh, yes.
I just want to echo what Maria said. And yes, I absolutely agree that there are those that, you know, were in the second generation, moved to third generation, fourth generation, and fifth generation. But in particular to the BTS ARMY, I think it's quite unique what the fandom is doing. We also know that the Hallyu wave, we've got the emergence of like this conference, other conferences around the world, every cultural center. But what I think what's also very unique within the BTS ARMY fandom, I personally am not a K-pop fan of any other group. Do I listen casually? Yes. Do I know what's going on? Yes, because I'm actively in this field studying about BTS, so therefore I need to take the responsibility of knowing what everybody else is doing, who are the emerging idols. But I think the reason why the fandom, just like any other fandom, we're in this digital age where every single fandom base is producing content. But in particular to the BTS ARMY, we have our own niche that specifically does research. So I think there's a lot of progress. There are books coming out made by fandoms. We have our own actual academic journal based on BTS. So I think that keeps up the momentum of just not only what BTS is about, but the future of Hallyu. And that's something that's been missing in the West that is currently just infiltrating. So in a sense, yes, you're going to have people leave. That's just nature. We're all going to change, but then we also have those that will retain the culture and everything that the convergence is leading into the next wave of Hallyu.
So I asked the question because Koreans were very excited with when they heard the news that BBC compared BTS to Beatles. And one of the discussion topic in my class was BTS will be just like Beatles. So, yeah, some students were very skeptic, responding, the nomadic culture in fandom. But some others, yeah, they were very positive about the future of BTS. So.
So I hope you can continue the discussion over the dinner or something. We have to stop for today, but thank you everyone for this very nice panel. I really learned a lot from the presentation and the discussion. I really enjoyed it, so thank you so much. And also, I just wanted to say, apparently some people didn't give back the interpreter, like the thing, so just give it back to the people at the entrance. So yeah, thank you so much everyone, and good job on today's panel.